the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Well, hello there, world. You are on Untold Radio's Down South Anomalies. My name is Jay Katz. I'm joined each week by my astounding wife,
Aspasia.
And this is episode 75. It's a very important episode. It's a pivotal episode. And that's where we thought we'd go to the heart and soul of Untold Radio Networks. Right there on the screen is an extraordinary man. He's got written Salt Miner, but it's John Ayers.
Yeah, it is.
The moderator. It's across so many programs in Untold Radio.
Mm-hmm.
John, how are you? I believe it's early evening there.
Yep. Just early evening, relaxing, unwinding.
Yep.
It's the way it should be. We are so glad to have you on the show. As we say every week, we are broadcasting on stolen land, part of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we have to respect and acknowledge our Indigenous elders, past, present, and emerging. It is a joy to have you on the show. You were on Doug and Alex's show, episode 140, and it was so inspirational to us. I mean, all of us over the years have heard the cliches like back to the salt mine. All of us think of someone who was a salt miner. Good God, this is the end of the earth. This man must have committed atrocious crimes and be on the way to the gulag. But you're going to dispel a few of those myths, but we're not going to repeat what Doug and Alex did. We're going to talk about your history too. And we're really curious from a personal perspective, what moment in people's lives do they realize there's a little bit more to reality than what we usually take in? And I believe from what I've been able to see throughout your incredible humor and your great moderation in our chat rooms on Untold Radio, is there came a moment for you in your life where your mind expanded, and we'd love to know the reasons behind that. But before we start, we must say to people living in Australia that next week we will be touring with one of the greatest living English artists ever, Jim E. Brown.
Oh, my God.
We will put a link to Jimmy's clips.
Well, I don't know.
So please get out there and look for Andy Burns and Jimmy Brown's tour. These are the most despondent, saddest songs you could ever imagine.
So look at this picture. This guy reckons he's a an obese, alcoholic teenager.
19-year-old.
19-year-old.
He's only 19.
He's not. I'm sure he's
not looking after himself.
But he writes songs like, what is that?
I think I'm going to die of a stroke.
You don't love me, or maybe you do. My baby is a human being, down by the sea, just don't want to be lonely. Fat people need love too. In the blink of an eye and the sound of me making love to you.
Which is an horrendous sound. But
his new songs, his later songs are I'm gonna die. I know I'm gonna die of a stroke.
And what about the selfie? I took.
Oh no! I took a picture of
the sunset.
I sent you a picture of a sunset, and you didn't respond.
Anyway, we'll be touring with him. Yeah. He's doing a tour across the country.
Yeah, he's from Sheffield, England.
Is hilarious, and he's with an incredible Japanese interpreter and incredible performer, Andy Burns. So that'll be coming up. There's a little bit of me late night in one of the clubs I work in here called Mary's. It's actually a burger joint, John. And as you can see, when I go into performance mode, everyone around me on that bottom level is embarrassed.
Or gets indigestion.
They don't want to look at me. It's only the people up the top safely on the S&E level that go, right, we're safe enough away. So that's going to be an interesting little tour. So check that out on our Facebook, or just check out any sights and sounds for people in Australia of Andy Burns and people across the world. We'll put a link to Andy's great music clips. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling despondent, that guy will tip you either over the edge.
Who, Jimmy Brown?
Yeah, or pick you up.
You'll either get him and split your sides laughing, or you'll say, what the hell is going on here? I have no clue. This doesn't make any sense.
But you know what? At my age, John, it's really difficult to get work. You've just got to run where the light is, basically.
You do.
And you had, oddly enough, you had a sea change in your life. You didn't start off doing salt mining. Maybe tell us about where you started in your work career.
Work career actually started when I was a young lad, about 14, dairy farm, and then into auto part sales, EMS, fire, then into the salt mine when it opened up. We originally had a Retzoff salt mine, which they had a, what's the word I'm looking for? A collapse that cracked into an aquifer, and that flooded out in 94, which I actually got employed there at the Retzoff mine, but that was a sinking ship when I got hired. I knew it wasn't long-term employment.
Right.
And then when they reopened this, it was like, yeah.
And was that salt mine primarily to do with unrefined salt, not table salt used for actually removing the ice and snow off roads?
It's all road salt, what we manufacture.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not that pink Himalayan salt, is it?
That's absolute crap.
I know.
Spelled that.
But
I know. That's why I'm saying it.
Pink Himalayan salt, as I covered with Doug just in a small bit, is totally not true. I can turn like right over here. And this came out of my mind.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. It all depends on what minerals are with the salt when it congeals to give the color. Yeah. There's actually a picture I sent Doug a while back. It was from Iran, and it was a mountain that was all salt, but it has blues and greens and oranges all in it. It's all whatever minerals were with that salt when it was solidifying. What gives it its color.
Right. Okay.
Now, one of the photos that I've found is difficult to decode as the Da Vinci Code.
Which one?
Was this one, and I take that this is you as a young man.
No, actually, that is my son. When I first got hired, he's 5 years old in that picture. I had to stop, pick up my paycheck on the way back from, that was his day at the circus in Rochester. So I stopped to pick up my paycheck and got a picture of him in front of our tag board. But now my son is 25 and he's working second shift at the salt mine as we speak. He's underground.
Right.
Incredible. Just one boy or other children, John?
I've got a daughter as well, Corey.
Nice.
I haven't got her in the salt mine yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, wow. At 5 years of age, let's have a look at this great shot we've got in the thumbnail. I love this. Where was this taken?
That's actually the reservation up above us in Bassam, New York. And they've got a lot of different stuff. They're actually behind me on the ground. There's an alligator about the same size. One of the other shops, they sell, buffaloes, mind you, from this size buffalo to one that wouldn't fit in my house.
Wow.
And just different items. And I originally took that photo and sent it to a friend of mine, who was an investigator. And it's like, look, I took one day off from work and I found one. What's your problem?
Incredible.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let's just keep going through these shots.
Okay.
That is when I got the Liberty Award with the three other gentlemen that are in the picture. We had a gentleman at work. I came in the morning and they asked me if I could go over to the surface shop and check him out. He wasn't feeling well. When I got over there, he was down and on the ground and full heart attack.
Wow.
And with our defibrillator that Kathy's got in her hand right there, we were able to bring him back within a matter of 3 minutes and had him awake and talking.
That is astounding.
Wow. AEDs work fantastic, and there's my training involved with it, but a lot what has to do with that is the owners at American Rock Salt are very good. Since I've started with my medical background, anything I've ever asked for that for medical purposes, they've provided. We've got 12 different defibrillators on site. We've got trauma kits and backboards. We have an ambulance underground. And just because a lot of guys don't understand, you always got to foresee, I may never need this, but if I need it, I got it. One of the things on the ambulance, I have a snake bite kit. Now, underground in a salt mine, no, you don't have a lot of snakes. But where do a lot of our parts come from? Down south, rattlesnakes and that. We actually get parts from Australia.
Right.
The original,
we've got lots of snakes
original elephant stone was the loader that was bought out by Caterpillars, the one R2900s that we use, and some of our parts come from Australia. Now, if they're boxing something up down south, Australia, wherever it is, and then they get that in the shop and they open that up, ooh, surprise! And then I've got it; it's there.
Yeah, you're
They've
ready
always
to go.
given me what I've needed and asked for.
That's very smart thinking on your behalf to take that initiative, though, and fascinating that you have to be. Maybe tell us a little bit about your medical background and what was it that an EMT? Is that what it is? Explain what that is.
I started out as a basic EMT for a local volunteer ambulance, and what it actually was I was home during the day and working nights at the time. And you'd hear on the scanner and they wouldn't get crews. And the village and everybody, you'd go to the coffee shop. All they do is complain about that. Well, I didn't do that. I went and did something different. I joined up and became a very active medic and increased my training from a EMT, which is just your basic care, to critical care tech, where I'd be starting IVs, first line cardiac drugs, intubation, airway intubation, and all that. And I did that for 19, almost 20 years until my back told me I wasn't a young man anymore and I shouldn't be doing that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm really not going to do anybody any good at 3 o'clock in the morning if I got to call an ambulance to get me off the floor too.
So I'm wondering that an EMT must be similar to what we call a paramedic.
Yes. Paramedic is one step above a critical care tech. But what it is about 3 other drugs, a surgical airway, and about 1.5 years more school.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Gee, I ended up being a pseudo paramedic on one of the largest dockyards in Australia that built some of the most massive ships in the world ever.
Submarines, yeah.
And all I had was a basic first aid. I'd done a bit of nursing training. And boy, was I thrown in the deep end, because that place employed thousands of people and you would have a minimum of 30 minor accidents a day, mostly arc welding flashes. But occasionally someone would fall off the top of a container ship being constructed, and then you'd find yourself on a crane swinging and look down in the box, the safety box. Safety box was just full of broken glass from numerous beers that were thrown down.
God.
And that dockyard was closed down in the 80s because I think a few of the practices were very suspect. We actually did dry fits on submarines and things like that. It was very interesting to look at the tachometers on those subs because they'd all been marked up considerably just in case I was in there with the Kodachrome taking a picture and shooting it through to Russia or China or something. But that was a very hairy moment. But what you've done is just astounding work. And what are some of the things that most of us don't even have a basic first aid certificate out there? What are some of the most vital things that you think people need to have on a day-to-day basis? Because these problems, whether you're down a mine or not, can occur to anyone.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things you always got to think ahead of what you're going to need. In the car, you basic first aid kit. But if you're going to go hiking or camping in the woods, you better have a little bit more advanced, because you never know what's going to happen out there. and have the means to be able to do it. The
so
hardest,
what would you suggest?
What in your aspect of your just basic first aid kit you could buy at the store, and then you look into it, you might want to get into some splinting material, slings, some way to take vitals to monitor a person if they're down. Believe it or not, the little foil, like space age blankets, you'll see them in first aid kits. They do keep a person's body temperature in very well in a cold situation. And that's one of the things you want to do is maintain their heat level or that as well.
Wow. Really important information for people. And I think it's important that we all go and renew at least our basic first aid. Although I happen to be doing mouth to mouth on you every day, and that's keeping you in good stead, isn't it?
It is. Saving
must
my
be working.
life
She's still alive.
It is.
And chirping. And chirping. What about this shot?
That was basically the same group of guys, but that was the American Heart Association. When they came in, did a little presentation for us as well, or certificate, that we did good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So do you speak to other people and try and encourage them to join up and do that sort of thing, or you just
if they're interested in it, I'll talk to them about it.
Sure.
But it's one of those things that you've got to be able to do. There's a lot of schooling involved in it, and especially when you're doing it where I originally started in the volunteer basis. I was going to school at night and working during the day, or vice versa. When I first started, school was during the day, work at night, and then we still had homework and everything in between. Yeah,
it's a big commitment, and most people can't be able to balance that sort of commitment.
Yeah.
That's a mine rescue picture. They asked me to work with the mine rescue team, and that's Greg Tucker and Bill O'Dell that are with me. In a week and a half before the contest, the only thing they had was basic first aid. We took second place of 13 teams for the first aid competition.
So how do you have a competition in rescue? What's involved in that?
What they do is they'll moulage up a patient and give you a scenario, and he'll be either laying on the ground or this and that, and give you just a brief of what's going on. And you basically do it just like you do a regular call, depending on what you find, treating wounds, backboarding, collaring. Like the one with that one, he had a battery explode on him. You got to wash his eyes, then dress him and stuff. And I'll be the first to admit it. Out of the three guys, I had the most knowledge. We took second place instead of first because I was overthinking everything, and I never put the blanket on the patient before we moved him to keep in the body heat. And that was just my faux pas. And the judges, after the all said and done and the announcements were made, that if we had put that blanket on, we would have had first place.
Wow.
That's
a really important thing, that you're so prepared, you're so aware of what you're doing. But all of us during stress can overthink things.
Sure.
We can overmanage things, and it sets up complications. So what would be a suggestion? Do you just take a good deep breath and reset yourself?
Yep. You have to. And you got to have time in between calls too. Even, if it's just the ride back to base or whatever in between ambulance calls, but you got to, decompress a little bit before you're ready for the next one.
Yeah.
What always got me the worst, for a call would be small children. You feel for them, and they're so scared, and and one of my, it's not a rule as in you got the guidelines what you follow and everything else, but my personal rule was the person I have in the back of the ambulance is having a very bad day, and if I can get them to either crack a smile or laugh a little bit before I get them to the hospital, I'm doing a really good job. And that's what I would try to do. Maintain a level of care, but don't foreshadow everything that, okay, you're having a bad day, hey, let's talk about this, let's talk about that while we're doing this. And try to de-stress them a little bit, because that'll help a lot.
Well, you've given them their body first aid, but you kind of got to give their mind a bit of first aid too, and relax them. Otherwise,
kind
if
of
they're
relax,
really
it's going to
tense
be
and
all
freaked
right.
out,
One of the
it's not going to do them any good.
John, you are such an admirable personality, and you know what? That just went straight through me, because I don't know, I've ended up in a lot of pseudo jobs, and another pseudo paramedics role was I drove a mission beat van here, which was based on a service in the Barrie area out of New York, and primarily your role is to assist any drug affected, homeless, alcoholic people and try and get them into proclaimed places for the evening. And when I went to that job, there wasn't even a first aid certificate for it. I was horrified.
Yeah, that was
and people were exploiting the positions of the role of the driver there. But just about every opportunity you had to assist someone was a medical situation. And alcoholism is a medical situation. You're fighting against all this embedded notion in culture that people are alcoholics because they want to be.
They're having a good time.
It's like a lifestyle choice. And, you know, so many people out there actually appear as if they've actually had an intoxication problem, but they could be in the midst of a hypoglycemic attack. They could have had a stroke. They could have had a heart attack. And I was horrified. And the numbers I was reading last night in this country have raised for homelessness massively. But I was horrified that people were walking past them. So I did that job. And so many times in that job, did you need to fall back on who you were as a person and make that person feel better. And even though you're fighting through drugs and intoxication, but you're also fighting through people that are sober, that are dealing with issues on the mental health spectrum, that are just dealing with the loss of trust and confidence. And I always felt, even though it's a Band-Aid, that short amount of time I had them in the van and that humor, you could actually break through.
Turn them around,
and make them feel, not turn them around, but make them feel that little bit easier and better.
You're turning them around.
So God, your words ring true with me.
Yeah.
Tell me about this next shot.
Wow,
what a beard.
That's just me when the beard was just a little bit longer, you know.
Yeah.
You said you wanted some pictures, and it's just one that
I
was going through my photos last night, which I have lots of photos.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? Have you always had a beard?
Actually not until probably 15 years ago or that, when I got out of the fire service. Because you always wanted to remain clean shaven for the fire service with your air pack and stuff. And then finally afterward, and it's like, well, I'm not putting that air pack on. I'm going to grow this out and see what it looks like.
And here we are.
My wife's really not fond of it, but you know, she tolerates it.
And you guys have been together a long time, haven't you? I think you're up there with us in terms of decades.
June 16th will be 34 years.
Okay.
Congratulations. That is an incredible achievement, a remarkable achievement.
We're 34 years this year in
in
September.
I'm feeling it already. Yeah. Don't mention it. It's a heavy burden. I've just got some little other sidelines that I hope doesn't cross over that interview with Doug and you. So let's have a look at this. This is a diorama of a German salt mine from a German museum. Have you seen this image, John?
I've seen images like this. The one that was originally up when I first came in, that one's a Polish salt mine, but this is more of a refined, as you see how white that salt is, that would probably end up being more of a table salt mine.
Right.
And
you know, I believe historically with salt mines, I mean, there was a lot of slavery. There was a lot of prisoners used to actually do the mining initially. And especially during the mid-20th century, I can imagine that would have been huge.
And like with that salt there, that's actually more dangerous than what we do, that because the white salt, it doesn't hold together as well. You get the gray layers and stuff. It's salt is very elastic. And when I'm scaling and stuff, you can actually feel it, the different layers pulling apart and stuff. And it's very temperamental. But white salt does not like white salt. It doesn't like any other salt. When it holds together, if you hit it just right, that whole face that they were on, you were just showing, could crumble in an instant if it gets the right crack in it.
Yeah, right. So do you think that because, we always expect salt to be white and, we use white table salt, do you think they brought in the pink Himalayan salt because there was lots of pink salt and they just marketed it as something and said, this is really good, this is really special salt, this is pink Himalayan salt.
Yep.
Instead of saying salt's now going to be pink or different colors, so just live with it, they went, ooh, boutique pink Himalayan salt, this is really good, buy this stuff.
Basically how I foresee that happening is they got into a large vein of the pink, and everybody knows that table salt is white. Well, How do we do this? Now we got lamps, we've got this, we've got that, all made out of pink Himalayan salt, which chemically speaking, there's no difference between that, the white, the gray. It's just the minerals that were there when it solidified is what gives it its color.
Yeah.
Wow. I believe too, salt mining is it one of the earliest forms of mining in the world? It dates right back into China, doesn't it?
It's very long history of that. And like even terminology we use today is back from when they originally started. Whereas when you're first started mining and you're just these little tunnels you're crawling into, you have your working face, which is right in front of you. You want to leave to get out. That's back there at your foot. That's where we get out, come in and go out. The walls are known as ribs from your ribs. The floor is your belly. The roof is your back. Wow. And it's still terminology we use today.
Isn't that amazing? And in a sense, with that terminology, mentally you'd be thinking, protect your back. It sort of heightens your awareness in a sense. You do a job called scaling. Maybe explain that to us. And is this a bit of manual scaling? Can you tell us what this is?
Yeah, he's using a jackleg to do it, which is handheld. You can also use pipe pulls. I use a 22-ton tracked machine. Basically looks like a track hoe with the boom on reverse and work at the ceiling. And I bring down some pretty good size stuff.
Wow.
And
then was there much training for that device? It's an amazing looking machine, and you can see it in that episode 140. It's astounding.
It's, if you've ever worked with any, like an excavator or a bat or bulldozer or anything like that, basically controls are all pretty much the same. It's right. I sit in a nice comfy chair and I run 2 joysticks all day long, which it works real well with my back, because totally serious, from earlier in my life, my back is pretty messed. I don't mobilize real good, but I do my pre-shift in the morning, check my oil, fluids and all that, get in my machine, and then I'm set for the day. I'm comfy.
Right. Great.
The hardest part of my day is my beginning, when I got to go around my machine, check it out and get it ready for the day. And after that, it's the chair and the seat and the scaler is probably more comfortable than it's more comfortable than the computer chair I'm sitting in right now.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what's nice about that is it has multiple different settings too. And I have a lumbar controlled. I can turn, adjust the seat up or down. The back, you can tilt that. Some guys, I'll come in the morning and the seat will be pulled all the way forward and that seat will be laid right back. And it's like, well, you guys working or were you sleeping?
Sleeping, obviously.
Yeah, the telltale signs.
Yeah.
I think this is more of this Polish salt mine.
Wow.
I think people don't realize how beautiful salt mines can be.
Yes. The original shot, when I first come into the studio while I was waiting, you had up was the actual church where they do underground church services in the salt mine, and everything in these pictures, except for the wooden rails and stuff, everything else you see there is salt. Even under the water is salt, and you can see the bluish.
Yeah. That's blue Himalayan salt.
No, I think that church you were talking about is actually an Australian one. We'll get to that shot.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think people realize how massive these mines can be as well.
Yeah, that is a very, very thick seam that they're working there. They would have worked it downward from the ceiling down, as you can see the different layers.
Yeah.
In our vein that we're in averages anywhere from 25 to 50 foot seam, and we only run, average height of about 11-foot ceilings and 40 to 50 foot room and pillar system.
Right.
Yeah, which is really important for safety. Another thing that people aren't aware of is there are large numbers of abandoned salt mines around the world. And I take it once oxidization sets in, you start to have what some people could term, John, as psychedelic salt mines.
It's all in how it dries and stuff. That was done, I can tell you right now, that was done with a continuous miner. And it's got a round head on it, multiple picks, and it spins, and then you move it back and forth across the ceiling and that to get that effect that you're looking at.
Right. Looks amazing.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, there must be some abandoned mines.
Look at that.
Where people do tours that are set up as like tourist attractions. Do you know of anything like that?
Not local around here. I know down in PA, there's the Bureau of Mines down there. Out in Colorado, a friend of mine was just out there. They went down and toured a mine that was there, but that mine was only 400 feet deep. We're 1,265, so it was kind of a easy one for him.
That is deep. That is deep. I mean, just look at these colors. This reminds me of like the Jenolan Caves we have in Katoomba, but even more colorful.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure if that last one was salt or the yellow looks a lot like it's got a sulfur content to it.
Right. So what happens when a salt mine is abandoned? These colors are not something you'd see when you're mining it. Are these something that come later through a form of oxidization or
drying out?
It's really where you see the color effect the most at our mine would be at the foot and working out, because as the fresh air comes in, in the middle of summer when it's really hot and humid, and down at the foot and out for probably half a mile or so, it's actually almost raining. The water's falling out of the ceiling because salt absorbs moisture, and it's absorbing that moisture right out of the air. And you go down through the tunnels by the foot and you see the stalactites that are forming and stuff from where the salt's dripping down off the ceiling and that.
Right.
Oh, amazing.
Wow.
Incredible. And what I must say again is to the people who are on audio listening to this podcast, give up that folly and get to YouTube. You need to look at this stuff. And
it looks amazing.
It's very astounding. Now, this is actually what I believe is now like set up like a museum exhibit, but this was where a lot of Nazi plundered treasure was stored in salt mines in Germany.
Right.
It's actually a very controlled environment if you get it in the right places. We do have some outside contractors that store different stuff down below in locked off rooms.
That needs
Eastman
to
Kodak.
that needs to be stored in a dry, cool place.
Yep. Eastman Kodak has some film underground with us.
Okay.
One of our local breweries, they vat up and then store their beer, because it's got to sit for a certain time. And once we've mined out the area, and they want to bring it down, we can put it down. Okay, this is going to be your area. We'll get the beer out for you. We'll get the beer in. We'll get the film out. We'll get the film in.
Right.
You just tell us what you need.
Do you think something like that would ever collapse?
I hope not.
Sorry?
I hope not.
Okay. All right.
We work very hard on roof controlled and management, and that's part of my job is roof controlled. And when I get done scaling, it's going to sound hokey, but I always ask myself, would I like my wife or my child or somebody walk under that roof now? If the answer is no, I've got more scaling to do, or else we have to involve roof bolting, mechanically bolting the roof up, and we'll put it anywhere from 8-foot bolts in to 20-foot cable bolts, and to support the ceiling. And then we can use what's called cogs. They're wooden setups to help support the roof. And it's very, very proactive in that aspect of it.
God, you'd have to be. You'd have to be on your toes all the time. Now, I believe this church is in Australia, in a salt mine.
Oh, right. Okay. It does look like a church. Wow.
Yeah, I've seen this one before, and I thought this was the one in Poland. I may be mistaken.
I could be extremely wrong as well.
But even I love this. I sit here and point at the picture like you can see what I'm pointing at, but the chandelier above there, in my reading, that basically that whole chandelier, anywhere where it looks like it's crystal, that is salt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The altars, and you can see in the wall over here to my left-hand side of the picture, you can see faces carved right into the salt and everything.
Yeah.
And if you work at it well enough, salt can be, we've got statues, outside the office and stuff that are done. And, you just got to take your time, because if not, it just falls apart. But you can do just about anything you want with salt.
Yeah, right.
As you can see, when I go back on here, this is salt.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
See how round that is?
Into a ball. Yeah.
I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's salt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just got to work with it and play with it. And you get bored with a Dremel, you make a mess. Your wife yells at you, but then you get really neat things.
It'd be similar to ice sculpture in a way, wouldn't it? I mean, you'd have to be
sand sculpture.
Yeah, like I said, it breaks apart so easily. You have to work it. You can't like hammer and chisel it. When I do play with it and stuff, what I use is just like a Dremel with a small bit on it, and work it that way. And I've made things for different people, pen holders and stuff. And it's just when you get really bored. But I found mostly that's best for doing outside, because that dust goes everywhere.
It's such an interesting point. When I was looking back historically, salt mining was considered one of the most dangerous jobs you could ever do. And today it's probably one of the least dangerous jobs in terms of mining. But what are the side effects on the human body? Because dehydration must be an extraordinary aspect of working around such predominant amounts of salt.
Yes and no. The one thing I have noticed over the years is I don't use salt at all. if I've taken a vacation, I've been off work for like a week or 2 weeks and stuff, all of a sudden maybe I want some salt on my eggs, but I just I don't want salt. Everybody uses salt all the time and stuff, and myself, I absorb and breathe dust or salt dust all day long, which some days
the other thing sorry to interrupt you, go on.
They say with a healing characteristic salt's supposed to have, the only quote unquote healing characteristic I found is with sinuses. I do get sinus problems bad, but I'll go to work and can hardly hold my head up because my head hurts so bad. But you get that salt dust and it dries them sinuses out better than any decongestant you ever had in your life. Right. And then I come home and I'm good for a couple hours, and then you could start feeling the sinus come back again and stuff. But there's days when I'm off, it's like, can I just go run my scalar for like an hour?
You know what? That's incredible, because I've suffered extreme sinus problems. I used to get cauterized as a teenager, and that's interesting to know that salt is one way to resolve that. I've always found when I actually go and hit salt water, or I go into the ocean, that even heat rash and things like that, it seems like it does have astounding healing properties, but maybe that's just mythos.
I can't testify on that with the salt water and that, but when I come out of the mine at night, I'm totally serious, I look like I've been hit with a powder puff. I'm white with salt dust.
Yeah.
And it's just something I'm used to at this point and stuff. And, clean up, get everything off you, and going on about your day.
Yeah.
Do you think it could be a beauty treatment? Do you think it removes like the epidermis layer of your skin and you're actually looking younger? You're probably well into your hundreds, but you're looking at least a quarter of that age because of the salt there. Oh, John, we were really touched by who you are and the way that you moderate Untold Radio. You're very fair. You're very clear. You seem to have a huge connection to people, and you utilize the best thing in the world. You utilize humor to overcome any form of adversity. Is the wife throwing things at you there? But and she's dying of salt consumption to the corner. We'll just keep moving on. How did you come about? What's your relationship with Untold? I'm really curious. I want to occasionally that we can digress into personal stories, because I think the people in the chat and the moderators are the heart and soul of the network.
Absolutely.
And they deserve as much time on the network as our researchers and guests and ourselves, the hosts. Is everything okay there? Can we help your wife?
She's actually going back and forth playing with the cat with a ball.
Oh, okay. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So no, it's all good. But how I originally got hooked up with Doug is during the pandemic, scrolling through YouTube and that, I found a local Western New York Bigfoot site and started watching it, because I've always, from In Search Of to Monster Quest to all of that, I've always been interested in it. And so I went on to his page, and one night he had Doug Hycheck on as a guest, and very, very informative, man, very interested. And that's when I started watching Untold Radio and hooking up, watching it on, the YouTube at night and stuff. And then finally it got to one point I was in enough of the shows and watching enough of the stuff that Doug had asked me if I wanted to be a moderator. And I'm here. So it's not like I'm going out of my way. These shows are ones that I watch anyway and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've noticed too that there are many people that come to the channel that have awkward moments, especially in the chat, and you're really good with them. You're great with people in that regard. What happened to you? Was there a moment in life where you were closed to these sorts of experiences and some incident occurred? What was the sea change in your life, or has it been there from day one? Were your mum and dad interested in these topics?
Mom and dad, not so much, but like I said, what really got me was watching In Search Of, originally interested in stuff, and didn't give it much thought. And the only quote unquote experience I've ever had, and I can't testify as to what it was probably 19, 20 years old, just before light. I was getting into the tree stand for deer hunting and bow. And I no more got sat down in the stand, and I brought the bow up and was hanging it on the hook. And probably a couple 100 yards to my right, there was a loud whack, whack. And I'm just like, what in the world is that? And then within 25 to 30 seconds, a couple 100 yards over to the left, again, whack, whack. And nothing could have traveled that distance that quickly. And all I'm thinking to myself is, okay, I just really PO'd a couple hunters. And but at that point I really didn't care, because as far as I knew from the landowner, I was the only one to hunt. And then I was probably 30, 35, and I don't know if it was Monster Quest or Expedition Bigfoot. One of those shows were on TV, and they were covering tree knocks. And when they played that tree knock, hitting that tree, the hair on the back of my neck just stood up on end, and I was instantly back in that stand. Because that's exactly what I heard.
What you heard. Yeah.
And I think that's, that speaks truth to so many people. Is like, pay attention to your intuition. Pay attention to your initial emotional response, because your mind and your body probably is far more aware than you are consciously that this is something unusual.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And that's quite astounding. Is there a hunting history in your family?
Yeah, through my brother, myself, uncles, cousins, we always hunted in that. Deer, rabbit, squirrel, and you're going to hunt it, you're going to eat it. You don't.
Yeah.
That's what your family.
My dad. I mean, every time my dad, we lived in the city, but every time he went hunting, whatever he brought home, we had to eat. It's like I don't go out and do this for fun. And I'm thinking, yeah, you kind of do. This is, well, not fun, but it's a sport. This is what you used to do back home in Greece in the village.
Mm-hmm.
And you still do it now because it's part of who you are. But don't say to me you don't have fun doing it. You do. But yeah, sure, we'll eat whatever you bring home, Dad. So I've eaten some weird things, tell you.
I tell you what, I've eaten some weird things with her. And maybe tell John the story about souvlaki.
Oh, souvlaki.
Because that was forced on me unbeknownst.
Well, my dad, my brother went, it was my dad and my brother went out hunting when my brother was old enough to. And they shot a wild boar, and it had a baby, a little piglet with it, and they kind of couldn't leave it behind. They brought it home to the city. They brought this tiny. I mean, it was so cute. You know how tiny they are, and so cute. But after about 6 months, they're built like Sherman tanks.
Yes.
It's like a razorback. This thing had tusks and anyway, but my mum used to walk it with the German Shepherd. She used to put it on a leash and take it for walks down the road. And for quite a while we had this, this wild boar living in the city, and somebody rang the council and they came out. I said, "Oh no, you can't have that. That's a feral animal." And it's like, no, it's not. It's not feral at all. It's tame,
Much loved.
It's classed as a feral animal. So then, of course, the problem was because my mum used to cook for it. It cooked food. And so the dilemma then was, if we release this, this animal into the wild, it's going to die. It's because it's not going to be able to look after itself. It can't.
Right.
It's not there. And what are we going to do? What's the alternative? So
come Easter, unbeknownst to me.
Well, we got somebody,
and I love this creature
because my dad or my brother couldn't do it because it was a pet, So we got somebody else in to come and do the job. And of course, then we weren't going to throw the meat away. I mean, that's just a waste, And so my mum cooked it, but none of us ate it. I've got 3 sisters, so the 4 girls, we fed it to our husbands.
It's a witch's coven, those 3 sisters. It really is. But anyway, and I was so sad and I was so shocked that I was eating souvlaki.
Well, his name was souvlaki, so you had to eat him. Anyway, so that was our the hunting and the crazy stories that happen around it.
Have you had any incidents apart from that one, or is that the only incident
that's the only one I can honestly say that I've had, or that there's other times that there's something moving out there, and I'm usually I can identify, okay, that sounds like your chipmunk, squirrel, okay, there's a deer coming or something, and it's like, what in the world is this?
What's that?
And there are supposed to be so many. And one of my pet peeves, all the people, if they were out there, you'd see them. I've lived and hunted in Western New York my entire life, and we have a very large black bear population. I've seen one black bear my entire life.
Yeah.
So, and that's an animal that we're supposed to, have, and it's readily available. And bobcats as well. I've seen one bobcat. And we have bobcats here, but I've only seen one in my life. So when these people say,
smart.
when they say, they can't be here because we didn't see them. No, well, you might not have seen them, but I bet you they saw you.
They saw you.
Yeah, because we're they're intruders in an environment they're highly acclimated to, heightened senses, incredible awareness. And we're the intruders in that environment. We're the invaders. We're the aliens that can't fit in. So it's so right. I mean, it's amazing how many trail cameras are out there in areas like that. And maybe decades go by before they catch something that's natively been part of that habitat for eons.
Yeah. Anyway, well, there you go. Okay, so how? Yeah, people who come into chats and stuff. I'm just like, I think to myself, if somebody's so, has an aversion to the subject that's being discussed, I think to myself, why are you even in there? Why are you there to throw shade on this topic? You're not into it. Just don't listen to it, or if you want to hear, because, listening to things that you're not open to is a way of learning more stuff. But do you have to comment and have to be disparaging to the people that are discussing it? I don't understand what that is with people that do that kind of thing.
I as they call them, trolls. There's a reason for that, and
sure.
Be on troll patrol, and I give fair warning. Hey, positive talk here and that and stuff. Sure. If they keep going, I give them seriously. First of all, I'll give them like a 5-minute timeout.
Right.
If they come back after that and they haven't changed, bye. Yeah.
So you've got a way of getting rid of them from there, or
yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
As a moderator, I can, at any given point in time, all you got to do is give me a nod if you don't like somebody, and I can make them disappear for you.
Okay.
Oh, that's good to know. That is really good to know. And that we've got the right person in there moderating. And I think you're very, very sensible with it. And usually just a word or so pulls most people back.
Yeah.
There is, especially when it comes to Bigfoot, but we're under the umbrella of all anomalies, but there is this real disparity, these two camps that are polarized between the flesh and blood and the woo factor. And even though I don't hold a hypothesis too close to my heart, and that is we are open to everything, but we don't accept everything either. No. And I think that it's important to keep an extremely open mind. As the decades have gone by as researchers, John Asper and I have dismissed stories that we thought were way too wacky and then realized, my God, there's some substantial evidence to support these claims. Yeah. And that's just my perception brought to bear on the subject matter. How do you feel between that camp of, the pragmatically flesh and blood and the woo? Are you open to it all? Do you have a moment where you sort of stop with your critical thinking?
In heart and in body, I feel flesh and blood. But again, I've learned through time, you got to have an open mind because you're not going to learn anything. I mean, there could be somebody coming on, and I've had it in different rooms. I won't names or anything else. And you're listening to them, and inside my head, I'm going, wow, this guy's on something really good here. But I'll listen to what he has to say. I will not be objective to it. You have to learn. That's how you learn in life.
Yeah.
And have an open mind.
But look, we know that they are flesh and blood, okay? Because a flesh and blood creature being would not leave behind hair or poop, right?
A flesh and blood creature would leave behind.
Well, no, I mean, a flesh and blood creature does leave, hair and poop and stuff, but that doesn't mean that there is not a paranormal aspect or has some sort of an ability that we don't understand. Just because we don't know it or don't understand it doesn't mean it's there. And if you're listening to someone,
it's not there.
Okay. But if you're listening to someone who's been out in the woods and is, knows that terrain really, really well and has been hunting for a long, long time, and they're telling you that something really weird was happening, then why would you not believe them? Do you know what I mean? You'd say, okay, well, you saw something and you heard it or you saw it, but then this really weird thing happened as well. So it's like, obviously there's been enough stories from people saying, I saw a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot or whatever, but then this really bizarre thing happened. And you say, well, that's obviously part of the whole thing, but we just don't understand it. So why can't we just go, okay, sure, it's a flesh and blood thing, absolutely, but there is this other aspect to it that we're unaware of or we haven't yet defined. So we just got to keep an open mind to the whole thing.
Yes, you have to, because there are no quote unquote experts in the field, because we're still researching, still finding this, finding that. Even the people that say, Bigfoot or Sasquatch has to do with alien activity and stuff. Personally, I don't believe that, but I can't say no, that's not possible, because I'm not an expert in it. So you never know.
You don't know. You weren't there to experience whatever they experienced. You know what I mean? So we don't know.
And I think too, semantics really play a game here. They limit the way we see things. I mean, I don't really like the term alien, but I could use that term with my wife. You're an alien to this continent because you came from Belgium of Greek heritage. And you're not looking very happy with that statement, are you? Now you're going to slap me, and I look forward to that. But I think that it's an astounding world we live in, and mystery needs to still be there.
Absolutely.
So it can trigger our imagination. And we are incredibly complex creatures that physiologically, medically, we are still yet trying to understand, basically, the notion of who we are, how we got here, the incredible capabilities that we have.
Even our capabilities. I mean, there's that whole thing about, ESP and, people who can see dead people and blah, blah, blah. And we're not 100% sure on that either, but there's so much evidence for it. Yet we still don't even understand ourselves and our capabilities, which if you said to people, well, this person has ESP, well, that's a paranormal thing, because it's not part of our, every single person has it. So there's this person that can do this, and they're human, but so it's the same with the Bigfoot.
Is that mining equipment I can hear?
I don't know.
My furnace just kicked on. Maybe
okay. Furnace.
So where are you, John? I mean, I don't want you to be trolled physically there, but just give us a ballpark figure of where you live and what it is. And are you surrounded by wilderness?
Pretty much. I mean, it's pretty urban area that I'm set in. If you were to look at a map of New York State and find Letchworth State Park on there in Livingston County, that's my backyard.
Yeah, right.
Wow. How
beautiful. And it's beautiful. It is. I mean, I can send you shots from that. You find New York, you find Rochester, go south from Rochester, find Buffalo, go east from Buffalo, and where they meet, that's Livingston County, where those two lines would intersect. That's the easiest way to find that area.
So do the wife and you go and do a little bit of hiking and researching? Do you go out there late at night?
John's got a bad back.
Yeah, but still, she could carry him.
Oh, no, but we do a lot of, it's not as much as the hiking as I'd like to do, because I do miss the outdoors, the hunting aspect and stuff, but it's more road riding and stuff. And, you can still do a lot of nature from the car and back roads, and, you get away from the city out in our area and stuff. And I can have you out in the middle of nowhere in about 8 minutes from my house.
Wow. That's pretty good.
And I take it that area, are there many stories that actually come from around that area? Do you hear stories, reports, and research?
Not a lot in directly here, but a little bit more south of us, like Allegheny, PA line and stuff. There's been numerous sightings down there, and that's where Joe, who passed last year, Western New York Bigfoot Association, that was his research area, where he had an encounter face to face at about 30 yards, and the gentleman wasn't pleased with him, let's say, because what he first saw was a deer he kicked up, and which startled him for that as he was out there. And then all of a sudden something went past his head, was a stick, and he turned, and he was probably 20 yards from him in a roar. And the only thing Joe can figure is he was hunting that deer, and Joe spooked it. And as he would say, and not to caption Joe, but you could find him on other programs and stuff, what he did is, "Whoa, big fella," and then backed off.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then the old man trot to his Jeep and got out of there.
Incredible.
Wow.
And so much respect to his family.
Mm.
Very sad. Look, I'm going to go to a piece of footage that we've already screened, and we can have a word about this. Dean Harrelson and YowieHunters.com down here. Of course, people know in Australia that that's one of our colloquial terms, like Sasquatch is
Yowie.
in the US. And of course, there are multiplicity of names throughout different clans and indigenous mobs throughout the country. But let's have a look at this footage from far northwest Queensland. Be cautious at the start here. Maybe remove the children from the room. And there is a bit of swearing. I'll try and talk over it, but let's have a look at this.
You got a cigarette box?
No, just put my boot next to it. Fucking brick clean in half, and then this next to it.
Got a good shot of it? That might be a better one there.
And it's going up the hill.
Hey, what about just digging a hole and burying them? It's only 2 grand. Yeah, that's right. What about up there? What's up there? No, that's not it. Yes, sir. Well, you can see where something's dragged it down there. I didn't look to see if the other car was still up there. Your boss will be his eyes open up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really astounding footage if at the end of the day it turns out to be real. And one of the other interesting things there is you're not seeing much blood. Plus, you're also seeing a couple of really remarkable footprints that seem to disappear. See, that's part of that notion of keeping us to this relic hominid that creates so much confusion. Because one minute you've got this physical reality.
You've got all this physical stuff
and then bang, something else has occurred.
Into thin air, you know? Yeah.
Now, from my history in hunting, what that tells me there is that hog was killed elsewhere, and its blood flow had already stopped when it got torn in half.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're so right.
If it had been alive, there'd have been a bloodbath right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it would take some strength to tear something like that in half.
Was it torn in half?
Or was it being cut in half?
I don't know.
How about this? Tell me about this. What do you think of this image of... I came across that last.
Have it.
Raccoon in front of
raccoon. Well, it's just a bit of jungle love, really. Hey?
All
right. How do you celebrate Easter over there? Is Easter a huge thing in the States? I guess it is, like it is worldwide.
It is for a lot of people, but you know, for myself, it's lost a lot of the pizzazz now that the kids are, you know, all grown and stuff. You know, it's,
no more Easter egg hunts.
And then, you know, I believe, now this could be wrong. Let me show you a piece. I believe your Easter eggs over there are not like ours.
All right, just to prove to you, I'm going to show you what the American Easter aisle looks like. There's no big Easter eggs. Here, let's take a look. All right, nope. No, I mean, that's kind of one, I guess, but not really. That's it. We got bunnies. We got lots of bunnies. Lots of bunnies. Nope, no eggs there. No. Those are eggs, but they don't have chocolate in them. Those are eggs just filled with toys. It doesn't count. It's not counting. These are all filled with toys. Like, see? Now, we do got, I mean, there's a...
Because this guy is sort of, you know, waxing lyrical to the sun. There must be big Easter egg, chocolate Easter eggs over there.
Everything's
it all depends on where you go. Your local department store, that's what you're seeing in that film and stuff. But I can go up to Batavia. There's a candy shop, and I can get you a bunny, an egg, or anything anywhere from yay big to 5 foot tall.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You know what I'm really curious about? But do you have Sasquatch Easter eggs like we have Yowie ones?
Sustainably sourced 100% chocolate with no artificial colors, flavors, GMOs, gluten, or nuts? It's an Easter treat perfect for every bunny.
So they're like a Kinder Surprise. But have you ever seen a Sasquatch Easter egg in America, John?
No.
No, not yet.
There you
Not
go.
yet. I haven't.
Have you ever been to Australia, John?
No, I have not. That is though on my bucket list, because you have something down there rather large with my name on it. Ayers Rock. Ayers Rock.
Yeah,
so astounding.
Ayers, yeah, absolutely.
We will assist you and the wife and any other members of the family. You can come and stay in our warehouse. The moment you decide to come, we will be there to support you big time. And then we'll go out to Katoomba, down into the valleys where there is so much yowie activity.
There's yowie activity.
And we'll have a great time doing that. I'm just going to take a little break for a tune here, and we'll come back with one last story. And the incredible John Ayers, the greatest moderator any live channel could ever ask for.
Turn up the dial, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, so I remember I share and subscribe. Join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts to all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
I'm just wondering one day, John, if all the moderators and the hosts come together and it's like, we are the world, where we'll all sing a karaoke version of that. But, you know, when I hear that sometimes, I think, oh, the horrors of AI. And boy, do I get like, we need to get a Norse metal band to do a version of it. It's catchy, but it can be maddening. Yeah. All right, but thank you to Doug and Alex. No derogatory comments about their work there.
Their work's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. John, your work is amazing. We're astounded by just what an incredibly decent, astounding, and hardworking soul you are. And look, sometimes I think to the wife, you know, I say to the wife, you know, do we really need to solve these mysteries? One of the greatest things that's ever come to us from doing Untold Radio and getting involved in all this research is meeting people like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Profound moments, really inspiring people.
Yeah. And then if we found out what it was and it was all over, then we wouldn't be doing this.
Our community would be gone. And you know, I mean, we've always been fascinated with the States. Our program's supposed to be primarily about Australia.
But it's all,
you know, what we keep leading towards America. Of course, we're curious about what we don't know about.
Yeah.
And we've been to the States once and we're coming back. Hopefully we'll be there in a couple of years' time.
Hopefully.
John, is there anything you feel that needs to be said to anyone going to the chat rooms or anything you want to say about Untold or these experiences before we end up today?
Now, there's one that is an example I've tried to use with other people when trying to talk about the subject of this or paranormal, whatever. You have to keep the open mind, because if you'd think back to, let's say, anywhere 78, 1980, would you have believed at that time if I told you we'd be talking face to face from across the planet?
Wow.
So right.
Yeah.
You have to keep your mind open because there's
Sure.
always the possibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
Incredible things. Now, listen, we've been following this story, and you might have seen it a couple of episodes ago, and it's happening again. Is it happening in your area ever? Let's just have a quick little peek at a taste of this news report.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, visitors are flocking to a new mystery monolith on the Welsh countryside. The 10-foot-tall silver monolith appeared with no footprints or tire tracks, and so far there's no clue as to how it got there. Lara Spencer has more.
It's the mysterious monolith that's the talk of one UK town.
Come up here most days. I've never seen this before. Almost looks like a UFO was pointing something down.
This shiny silver spear atop a bluff in Wales, spotted by local Craig Muir, who says it seemingly appeared out of nowhere. Muir taking the video after spotting.
You know what, John? Those things are not cheap to make.
No.
There's a couple of Australian guys that reckon they were making them and putting them every round.
Up there, did they?
But they were actually retailing theirs for $45,000 once constructed, because they're out of stainless steel and riveted. Has anything like that appeared in your area?
Not in our area, but yes, in our country a couple of years ago, Utah and Nevada both had very similar. And I don't know whatever became of them, if they're still there, if they've been removed or what.
The one in Utah disappeared. 5 people came and
dismantled it
and stated nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just a very curious thing, because you really have to have a bit of money and a bit of access to getting around the planet to put these things up.
Sure. And if it's some sort of a way of bringing attention to some subject or something or other, we're not getting it. So the reason that they're doing it, for whatever reason they're doing it, we are totally unaware of who it is and why they're doing it. So it's definitely not some sort of an advertisement for anything. Otherwise, we would have heard about it by now. And it's been going on for years, more than a decade now, hasn't it?
About 15 years.
About 15 years, they've been popping up all over the world. So I don't know.
Now, the one when originally appeared in Utah, the news actually touched on it and compared it to the opening in 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the apes are around with the monolith. And not knowing if that was somebody's message and what they meant to do or what, but they gave the comparison to it. It just appeared.
Yeah, but that was speculation of the news story. It was
right, but it gave a comparison to.
They were just speculating. But
Yeah,
absolutely.
And look, that film is still a very fascinating piece of cinema that actually predicted a lot of technology like Star Trek did. We've got today.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, the action figure which we put up on the screen that you retails that you can purchase for that is not an action figure.
There's no action about it.
No action in that figure whatsoever.
It's just a monolith. It's just like, this is the action figure monolith. It's like, okay, whatever.
Now, John, I really want to thank your wife. I should send her a care parcel, actually. But please give your wife our love. We really appreciate her just as much. And we appreciate all your kind words to us about the loss of our pet and our animal. There's few people that understand that. You don't anthropomorphize your animal into a human being.
No.
But after years, well,
they're part of your family.
Of coming home to that animal, that is genuinely a family member.
And it's screaming at you.
Yeah, just like the wife.
No,
I don't have the screaming in stereo.
A lot of people got to hear Anton screaming during our podcast.
Yeah,
but
the last couple of years I've gone through the same thing a couple different times. We had our Siamese Himalayan. He was 16 or 17 when he passed.
Right.
And last year I had to put my dog Misha down. I'd had for a long time, and it's one of your kids.
Oh,
as I say all the time, my fur babies.
Yeah, they are.
And you know what? I will refuse to, this whole notion of like animals don't have a soul, they're just around you because you're feeding them. I don't believe that for a second. I think if we've got a soul and this goes somewhere else, and that's still speculation,
just like us,
that they're going to be with us.
Yeah.
And you know what? I give my heart to every creature that's around me, but that animal really has devastated us. We've been at a complete loss here.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've got a warehouse, we've got a room up the front where we do underground screenings to the public sometimes. We do a lot of outside screenings. But we used to have a hairless cat and our Siamese, and we would wait to the right time during a horror feature and open the door and let those cats up there without telling anyone. And boy, did that give some jump scares. What was your cat like? Was it very talkative, the Siamese?
When he was in the mood, yes, he was very talkative and he would run the conversation. When he got, you know, after about 10 to 15 years, that's when he really started to slow down, and, you know, he'd come in, let us know it was time to eat, and, you know, then be on his way. But where a lot of people say animals don't care, I can turn that right around, because our cat we have now, Odin, she's kind of her own kind of cat. You know, you will pet me when it's time to pet me. Sure. But last year when I went through COVID, she didn't leave my side for a week. She was right on me the whole time. And any other time, no, no, we're not going to cuddle. But that whole week I was home with COVID, she was right there.
Yeah,
never
they know. They know. They absolutely know.
I've got a very close relative that's ill at the moment, and the same thing happened with his cats.
Yeah,
and they were very standoffish cats that would never headbutt. Anton wouldn't headbutt, but he would nestle into you and stay there forever. And when he was actually getting sick, he came and sat on the back arch of every chair we had to be closer to us.
Yeah.
So you feel this sense of, you know, I actually trust animals a lot more than I do humans. You know,
absolutely.
What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
John, we're honored to have you as a guest. We really appreciate who you are.
It was great to make that connection, you know, face to face sort of.
Yeah. And I think for us, this episode's just as important for our audience, because we just want to make that friendship stronger.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you ever need from Australia, a jar of Vegemite, I said this to Angie, Snow White Bigfoot, you just get in touch with us. We're there for you. And I know what an incredible work schedule you keep, and what an astounding person you are. So thank you very much for your valuable time.
Yep, that's not a problem whatsoever. Anytime, just holler. And we can.
And you have given us so much joy in your moderation in the chat. You have great dignity, but you have astounding humor. And believe me, it's my kind of humor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you get a chance, when we put the links up, we'll put a link to that episode of Doug and Alex's for Untold Radio, where John speaks more extensively about his work in the salt mine.
Yep.
But we'll also put a link to the gentleman we're touring with next week, that 19-year-old obese alcoholic, Jimmy Brown. And I'm sure you'll get a laugh out of his film clips and his music.
It's hilarious.
Yep.
Anyway. All right. Well, that's the show for this week. This one we've been wanting to do for a long time, and it's in the bag now. So that's a tick off the bucket list for that one.
Yep. A lot easier.
Big love to big love to your children and your wife, and thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your decency and your involvement in the network. It is so appreciated, and so much respect to you, John. We'll speak to you real soon.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Daytime's lunchtime for us now.
Whatever.
Yeah. You go to bed. We'll
it's time for your Vegemite.
We're already into we're Good Friday here right now.
Yeah. So we won't. It'll be. Is it just?
It'll be
fish.
It'll be Saturday.
Do we not have fish? What do we do on Lent? I've got no idea.
It's not Greek or it's not Orthodox Easter.
Yeah.
Orthodox Easter is in May this
I'm all
year.
confused.
Yeah, no, it's out of control. Anyway,
so I have 2 Easters creeping in.
It's all good. All right, we'll be back next week with another show.
You've been on Untold Radio. This is John Ayers, moderator, and ladies and gentlemen, get it into your thick heads. That man is the salt of the friggin' earth.